About once, the website, not so much now that I'm on Facebook a lot and Twitter, but I will essentially go, every few months I'll go into the facts page, the frequently asked questions page, and update that. But actually what we need to do is on the books page, it needs to be updated with the newest covers.
With the newest covers, okay.
How often do you use like your Twitter and Facebook to
In England, when I'm on, I use it daily, several times. And in fact, I tweet about 12 times a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you use your computer or phone? What's your medium?
I have this. I have an older generation of this, a black one. I have my iBook that you saw in my, my iMac that you saw in my study, the nice new silver one, and I have my iPhone.
Okay.
So I'm definitely a Mac. It's 4.
Which one do you prefer to use more than?
Well, it's really interesting. I can really only write at my desk on my iMac, and because one of the biggest temptations is to surf. It's so easy now.
Right.
You remember dial-up when you used to have to go, it would do the crack one, you would just, but now you can just one click of the button and be on Wikipedia. So I actually have this software called Freedom Software that stops me browsing. And when I go in the morning, I'll quickly check to see if there's any urgent email, or sometimes I won't even check urgent email. And I will put in, it'll say how many minutes do you want to be offline, and I'll usually choose 120, which is only 2 hours. But if you do 2 or 3 hours of solid writing in the morning, that's a full day's work. Because it's so tempting. Bye! Okay, bye, Linda. So I like using my iMac, but then I've turned off the browsing, and my phone is recharging over on the chest, and it goes brrr. Someone's tweeted me, and I just it's like you get sucked into a tweet or something. So sometimes I have to put you in the other room, go in the other room, and then when I'm traveling, I take my MacBook Pro with me, and this is really nice because I can plug it in and show my PowerPoint to them. And there's this thing called iCloud. And I lost tons of my contacts when they first switched over, and I had a lot of notes on my address book because I just would make, like some of my characters, I'd give them my address book entry and put all and that was all lost.
How did
Because they did a switch over and they just lost data. But now it's all coordinated.
Okay.
So I've got it on here,
So you
here.
use contacts to add a new character?
Yeah,
and
I sometimes use my
information.
contacts.
Oh, that's a
And so I
great
lost
idea.
a ton of them on the switchover, but that was for the Western Witches, so that wasn't so important.
So what else do you use? What program do you use when you're writing or taking notes?
I just use Word when I'm writing, although I have John Truby software and I have Save the Cat software. Oh, what's really interesting is I was talking about Save the Cat, the screenwriting, because I'm really into structure. I will think about a book, like I'm about to write the 4th PK Hamilton mystery, and I will always start with what is PK going to learn? You know, what's going to be the life lesson in this, and how will PK change in some way by main character? So I think about structure a lot because that's got to be in the DNA of the story. And Blake Snyder's Save the Cat. Right now, for example, on my iPod, I'm listening to Michael Hagan, Christopher Vogler, The Two Heroes' Journeys. So it's an audiobook about story structure. So I just saturate myself, and this has been going on for 12 years with story structure. So that's on my audiobook, and I also have other audiobooks and podcasts. I listen to movie reviews a lot. I listen to writing classes a lot. But then I have Save the Cat software. See my little Save the Cat app with the little cat holding from there. So I touch that, and right now I'm just going over a screenplay I wrote of a romantic comedy set in the Civil War called North versus South. And so I'm going through my screenplay to see if it hits the beats, because I wrote it before I discovered Save the Cat. But for example, for Spider-Man 2, it's so brief, it just tells you where you should, it lets you plug in how many pages it is, what the log line is, what kind of a genre it is. And Blake Snyder is so clever, he invented new genres. So, for example, Spider-Man 2 has 110 pages. The log line is, a frustrated Peter Parker gives up being Spider-Man to be with Mary Jane, only to be called back into service when she's kidnapped by a supervillain about to destroy New York City. He calls this genre superhero. That's his new, he's made up 12 new genres. One of them's buddy love, which is any romantic comedy, or like, you know, a bromance. Another one is haunted, well, here are some of his other genres.
Is that a free app?
No.
How much does it cost?
A couple of dollars.
Okay.
Rites of Passage is one of his genres. Out of the Bottle, anything magic. Monster in the House can be anything from Alien to Cabin in the Woods. It's like a horror film. But it could also be The Cable Guy. It could be a funny comedy where someone's in the house and you've got to get them out. Institutionalized. Golden Fleece, which is the hero's journey, where they go on a quest for something. Fool Triumphant, which is the opposite of the superhero. Forrest Gump would be an example of the Fool Triumphant genre. Dude with a Problem, The Big Lebowski. Or Dude Where's My Car. Or it doesn't even have to have dude in the title. It could be even The Fugitive, could be Dude with a Problem, or North by Northwest. And so, you know, it's really, really good. So that was superhero.
Do you use any other apps?
Let's see what other apps I've got. I've got my Cineworld app, which tells me what's playing at my local cinema. I've got my Starbucks app, because every writer needs their triple espresso. I've got, what other apps that are useful? I've got a dictionary, I've got a Latin dictionary, I've got Latin poetry. But no, the only writing app I have is the Save the Cat app. Though I have a Kindle app, so I can read books on here. I'll just tell you what books I've got on my Kindle at the moment.
Okay.
Just rattle them off for interest's sake. I've got a lot of books.
Mostly fiction?
Well, let me tell you. I've got The Frogs by Aristophanes. I've got a book called Redressing America's Frontier about cross-dressing in America. I've got the Flavia de Luce book, The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie, which is a fun detective story about another detective girl named Flavia in England in the 1950s. I've got Wuthering Heights, it's free. I've got a book called Journey to the Center of My Brain, poetry by an English author. Winston Churchill, a children's biography. Catching Fire, one of the Hunger Games trilogy. Got The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins, which is a good Victorian detective story. I've got A Christmas Carol, Tales from Lake Tahoe, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, Arthur Conan Doyle. The Corfu trilogy, Gerald Durrell is one of my favorite authors in My Family and Other Animals. Middlemarch, Tribune of Rome, The Gods of Gotham, about the beginning of the New York Police Department in the 1800s. Gone Girl, anyone read Gone Girl? Moonwalking with Einstein, about this guy who uses memory tricks, because I'm very interested in memory. The Somnambulist, a Victorian whodunit for adults by one of my friends. Flashman, Team of Rivals by Doris Kearns Goodwin. Gentleman Outlaw, selected stories of Bret Hart, who was a writer contemporary of Mark Twain. Life Among the Paiutes. Les Miserables. Three Men in a Boat. The Forgotten Legion. The Whip, which is a book about a woman, a stagecoach driver who was only discovered to be a woman when they did an autopsy on her after she died. Everyone thought it was this guy called Charlie Parker in California. The Case of the Deadly Desperados by Caroline Lawrence. From Ostia to Alexander, my travel book. I've written a travel guide for kids. The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Albert Nobbs, I love cross-dressing. That's just been made into a movie. Appaloosa, I love Robert Lee Parker. This is one of my favorite adult westerns, Appaloosa. True Grit, one of my top 5 favorite books ever. And by the way, my favorite audiobook in the world is True Grit, read by Donna Tartt, who wrote The Secret History. She's a writer. She's from Arkansas. She reads it brilliantly. I also love Boone Slick by Larry McMurtry, read by Will Patton. I've got a book called The Cleopatra Curse. The Man Who Listens to Horses, Monty Roberts. The Real Horse Whisperer.